Long time no see.
That's right, man. I
Just
like
keep
running
on the
into you
Zoom.
on Zoom.
I know. Fancy meeting you here.
How was your photo shoot today?
It was good. I brought another shoe. So I wore normal shoes for a few minutes. So I've
That's
been in a boot
yes,
because of
yes.
torn tendons. So that was kind of fun. But yeah. Yes, I'm doing the Wacoan article about all my favorite books to gift this season.
I love it.
So yeah. So everyone will have to tune in for that.
Yes. I know it wasn't like a full like picture where they would see your shoes, right?
No, but I needed to be prepared. Hey,
I understand.
Michelle.
Hi, how are you, Michelle?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So happy to have you.
Well, I'm really happy to be here. I'm going to get you on a full view so I can see
Okay,
everything.
yes. I
Let's,
love it.
there we go.
I love it. Thank you for being so prompt. We usually just jump on like 5 minutes before and have a little small talk and wait for the author, but here you are.
I have to see which one of you is which. You're Allison and
Yes,
you're
I'm
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
yes,
So Allison owns the bookshop and I just spend all of her money.
it's true.
How fun.
Yes. But
Yeah,
Elizabeth's more of my show pony, so I like
yeah.
to bring her out and have her charm everybody.
I get to buy the book, so it's a dream job. That's my to find the best books I can for Fabled, and of course, Bug Hollow was definitely one of those this year.
Oh,
He does
thanks.
a great job. Well, tell me where you live, Michelle. I think it was in your bio.
Well, right now I'm living in the Echo Park neighborhood of Los Angeles, but I
Okay.
used to live in Altadena, but we
Oh,
got
yes.
burned out from the fire.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man,
How
that's
are
really,
you doing with all that? I did read that you lost your home in the fire.
Yeah, we lost two. We had a home and a rental, and we lost them both.
mm,
Um, but we're rebuilding, starting with we're building a little house on the rental property that we can live in while we build our big house.
that
So
makes sense.
we were looking at slabs today.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes. So many decisions and all of those
I know.
things.
And we had just
Big stuff.
done, two big remodels. I thought I was never gonna have to look at another faucet again.
Oh,
Oh, gosh.
you just never know, do
It's
you?
hard, man. It'd be hard just to be like, can we just copy paste what we did before? That
Well,
would have been
exactly,
nice.
exactly.
How is the
So
neighborhood? Are your neighbors going to move back, or what's the
yeah,
is
some of them are moving, almost all of them say they're moving back. We'll see what actually happens.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Because, it's been a 10-month inconvenience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm happy here. I like Echo
Right.
Park. We're comfortable. We're lucky, very lucky. We have good insurance, but
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hard though.
But I'm sure with every contractor needing to do so much there, you're on a wait list, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah. Well, we're about a third of the way. We're the first people to submit a plan.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
We've got a house about a third built. My husband would say it's half built, but I would say it's a third built.
You got plans.
Yeah. I
And
love it.
no, it's a long haul.
Hmm.
Do you
Yeah.
think you're going to write about that experience?
Oh, sure, at some point.
Yeah.
At some point,
Yeah.
yeah.
Makes sense for
Mm.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, it is seven
Hey,
o'clock.
where are
So
you? Where
what?
are you?
Go
You,
ahead.
where's Fabled again? I
It
looked it
is
up months ago.
in Waco, Texas. So Central Texas, right in
Yeah,
the middle.
great.
Yes, we have weather right now for long sleeves, which makes us really excited, but it will change tomorrow, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Have you done any touring in Texas?
I went to the Austin Book Fair once.
Okay.
yeah,
That just happened.
that's right.
And my first book was named Round Rock, but it wasn't set in Texas, but they brought me to Texas because they hadn't read the book, I guess.
That's really funny. Well, Round Rock's only about an hour 15 from us. Very close. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, we will officially start since it's 7 o'clock on the dot. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Fabled Book Club. We have the privilege every month of interviewing an author on his or her book. And the best thing about our book club is that spoilers abound. We talk about beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not finished Bug Hollow, please do yourself a favor. and exit your computer, and we will send you this recording. We'll send everybody the recording about 24 hours after we conclude our interview with Michelle today. We're so thrilled to have her. If you have any questions for her about the book or about her writing, feel free to drop it in the chat. Elizabeth and I have lots of questions, maybe too many, but we will, so we might get to one of yours. We might ask something that you already have in mind. And then again, it will be recorded, sent out 24 hours later. So if you have to jump off for any reason, don't worry. We will get it for you. And we always post our author interviews on YouTube as well. So if you're ever, in the need for a good book, you can peruse those, and then we interview those authors. And then at the very end, we will be announcing our January book club pick. We will not meet in December because December is insane as it is. So we take a month off, which is kind of nice because then Elizabeth and I get to read other things too, as far as we prepare for the spring. But we will be jumping back in it in January, and we'll have a special time for that book club too. So just make sure you make a note of that. So I'm going to let Elizabeth officially introduce our author today.
All right, we're so thrilled to have Michelle with us tonight. Michelle Huneven is the author of Round Rock, Not Texas, James Land, Blame, Off Course, and Search. Her books have been New York Times notable books and finalists for the Los Angeles Times Book Prize and the National Book Critic Circle Award. She is the recipient of the Whiting Award. Is it Whiting? Did I say that right? Okay, I have to learn all these awards when I do these bios. For fiction, a Guggenheim Fellowship, a James Beard Award. You're probably the first of those for us, and a Literature Award from the American Academy of Arts and Letters. She received her master's in fine arts from the Iowa Writers Workshop and teaches creative writing at UCLA. So again, Michelle, we're so thrilled to have you. Search was an absolute breakout hit. I mean, you probably don't feel that way, but for us, we really got to know you through that book, and I just couldn't wait to pick up Bug Hollow. I absolutely loved it. I love a book that's set in the 70s. And of course, I read this book probably 6 months ago, and knew that we definitely wanted to have this as one of our Fabled book club picks. So can you just give us a little bit of an elevator pitch or reminder about what Bug Hollow is about?
Well, Bug Hollow is about the Samuelson family, and it's told in chapters that almost feel like different short stories, but they're very interrelated and they don't stand on their own, but it's more kaleidoscopic. So it kind of skips through the years. There's several chapters in the 70s, and then it starts skipping ahead about the different family members. And it starts with a tragedy. I guess it's a spoiler.
You can talk about it. This is
Yeah.
spoilers abound. Go ahead.
Spoil about, yeah.
In the first chapter, the oldest son and sort of the golden child of the family leaves home on a camping trip and doesn't come back for the summer because he's met a girl. And he's in touch with his family. They go up and they fetch him home. The mother especially is very worried about him, worried that he's not going to go to college. He goes off to college, but the day before classes start, he drowns. And that drowning and that loss and that realignment of the family sort of echoes throughout the whole rest of the book.
That's true. Well, you are a creative writing professor. I have a dad as a literature professor, so I've lived in this world. I've read that Bug Hollow began as a writing prompt you gave your students, and something about a sibling you never had. What
Yes.
about that made you want to turn it into a novel?
Well, I didn't set out to write a novel. When I was done with Search, I was exhausted. And I thought, well, I'll just write some short stories. But I didn't have any ideas. So I thought, well, I give my students all these prompts. So I put all the prompts together in one sheet. There's, I don't know, 120 of them, something like that. And I just started to write to them every day. And I got to one that I'd actually written on before, and that was write about a sibling that you never had. It's a good prompt for undergraduates because they know everybody else in the family. So they only have to invent one one character, actually. And I had liked it so much. I wrote about a brother that I never had. I just have a sister. And I based him on a very young uncle that my mother had named Ellis, who was almost her age, even though he was an uncle. And she really liked him and was close to him, and he drowned. And so I'd written the story up to a point. So when I hit that prompt, I got it out. And I thought, well, I know how to finish this. I'd been avoiding drowning him.
Mm.
Want to drown him.
Wow.
So I finally drowned him. Then I gave it to my friend, the novelist Mona Simpson, and she read it. And she said, well, now I want to know what happened to the girlfriend he left behind.
Mm.
So I took that as a prompt. And when I was done with that, she said, now I'd like to know more about the older sister or the mother, I think, and then the older sister. And so each one, and then I mentioned to another novelist friend of mine, Lily Tuck, that I was writing a book about a family and that the dad worked in Saudi Arabia. And she said, well, he should have an affair in Saudi Arabia. I'm like, no, he's too nice a guy to have an affair. But then, and I know nothing about Saudi Arabia, but then it stuck with me, you know, and I just kept researching Saudi Arabia, and Claude walked on the page, Claude and Yvette walked on the page, the two other characters in that story. And
Love it.
Yeah, I think
fun.
that's so interesting how the short stories slowly became connected into a cohesive, I mean, sort of a linear story. What made you decide to turn it into a novel instead of just keeping it as interconnected short stories?
Because they weren't standing on their own.
Mm.
The stories weren't really standing on their own. They were much more like chapters. You could read them, but they're so attached. To get the full resonance of them, you have to kind of know the other family members and what came before. So I kind of realized that wasn't really working as independent short stories. But I liked the way that I worked, where I would start it always the same way. I have no ideas. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, here's an idea, but I don't know how to start it. Okay, now I'm in the middle. It's going pretty well, really fun. Now I have to end it. And then I would have to start all over again. It was like a steeplechase.
Mm.
You know,
That's
Yeah,
really
I'm sure
good.
that felt you have little accomplishments, short-term goals.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
great.
Well, I would love to hear about the title, the significance of Bug Hollow, which they spent little time there, but was very significant in the story. Why did you decide to name the book Bug Hollow?
Well, I always loved that title. When I took a year off of college to be a hippie in North Carolina, way back in the Neolithic. And
Hilarious.
there was a commune there called Tick Creek. And I always thought Bug Hollow was sort of a riff on Tick Creek, not quite as specific. And so I named, the house that Ellis goes and stays in, Bug Hollow. And because it really was kind of a buggy, shacky kind of a place, an old hunting lodge that an art history professor had inherited and had to rent out rooms. And then when I just like the title better than any of the other titles in the story. And also it's sort of generative because it's in Bug Hollow that his girlfriend gets pregnant and has the baby that kind of replaces him in the family a little bit. And so it's kind of generative,
Yeah, that makes sense.
although, it's sold to Italy and France, and England is keeping the title, but the French call it La Famille Samuelson. And the Italians wanted a different name too, because Bug Hollow, I guess, doesn't translate.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's so
Interesting.
funny.
I love watching the characters change as the decades go by. Did you do a lot of research into California from 50 years ago, or did you just remember your own experiences?
A little bit of both.
Mhm.
I love to do a little research here and there. You know, there were a few places, not necessarily in California, that I really had to double check. And I knew nothing about Saudi Arabia. I spent 6 weeks reading about Saudi Arabia. Um, I did go to Boulder Creek, which is the town where Bug Hollow is, and kind of check it out again because it had been like 40 years since I was there, or 30 years since I was there.
That makes sense.
Was it hard to kind of keep when you were had the characters in different decades? Was it hard to keep all that straight, or were you able to? How do you? What was that face for? What was that hard to do?
Yes, I have these little notepads, you know, and I would write down the age of everybody. I'm always telling my students that the difference between a short story and a novel is sooner or later, when you're writing a novel, you're going to be on the floor calendaring and writing timelines.
Mm,
And I had graphs of how old everybody was at each story, when I had birth dates, so that, you know, they would, you know, be 40 half the year and 41 the other half the year. And I thought I had it all down so perfectly that I sent it to the copy editor so that she did find a few things where I did have to get
Interesting.
back to the floor
mm.
and kind of chart it all out again.
Sounds very tedious, but fascinating.
Yeah, it's the picky work. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You have to have a good copy editor for sure.
Oh, they save you from so much embarrassment.
Right. Seriously.
Seriously.
I was interested as exploring the characters, having sympathy for them, or getting mad at them. What about you personally? Is there a character that you have the most empathy for, or when you were writing him or her?
Well, I think that Sally is the nearest and dearest to me.
Mhm.
But I sort of had sympathy for all of them. I liked Phil, and I felt the mother, you know, had some severe shortcomings,
Right.
but she also did what she could for the
Mhm.
world. She did good in the world. Maybe
Yeah.
not so great for her family.
Yeah. Was it a conscious choice to not include Ellis's point of view in the story?
It's funny you asked that because today I was thinking, God, I never wrote from Ellis's point of view. Maybe I should write a story from Ellis's point of view. Um, it never occurred to me to.
Hmm.
It never occurred to me
Well,
to.
that's a good, maybe a prequel.
That's
Yeah.
true. As I noticed that, I was like, we're hearing from everyone, which was really interesting. All right, you mentioned like how it is to kind of keep track of everybody in a large cast. And was that instinctive from the beginning, or did you learn that over time writing your other books? I've heard you have a tendency to overpopulate.
Yes, I do. That's why I'm a novelist. You know, I start writing and by page 2, I've got 12 characters. Um, well, you know, Search was really that because I had 17 ministers, I had 8 search committee members, I had, you know, God knows how many other church members, and I had to keep them all straight. And
Mm.
so that was really taught me to try and really keep them straight.
Yeah.
I think with Bug Hollow, I didn't have to keep them as straight. I did have to keep their ages, you know, in
Were
tune.
there any other characters that were in Bug Hollow that got cut?
I don't think so.
Mhm.
I don't think so.
Okay.
They all stayed in.
They all stayed in. That's great.
Well, you just spoke about Search, and I wanted to ask you about that because again, that was such a hit. I'm in a 2000 woman book club, and everyone went crazy over Search.
Oh,
But
that's
how was it? Was it different writing about different church members versus a dysfunctional family? Did you enjoy both? What were the challenges of that?
the challenges with Search were differentiating the characters because there were so many, and I invented every one of those ministers. Some of them just appear, their application is briefly described and they never show up again. But it was really fun trying to come up with different kinds of ministers who believe different things. That I really enjoyed doing. In a way, Search was more schematic than Bug Hollow.
Mhm.
I knew I had to keep my characters very distinct in Search, and in Bug Hollow, it felt much more intuitive and emotional to me.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Interesting.
yeah, in fact, at one point I thought, why did I write Search?
Well, we both come, Allison's husband is a minister and we're very active in church. So it was one that really rang, uh, felt that in our souls.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice. I'm glad. I get a lot of letters from ministers and rabbis.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fun.
You talk about Sib being, not a perfect mother. And do you prefer writing characters that people root for, or do you kind of like a long, I don't know, a long tease of someone having compassion over a character, or like morally gray? What do you prefer in your characters?
Well, I like them to be multidimensional
Mhm.
because nobody's all good or they're saccharine, and nobody's all bad or they're just an exaggeration or just a psychopath.
Mm.
Um, I mean, with Sib, for example, I was interested in a mother who knew she wasn't a very good mother, but couldn't really do anything about it. And I was also interested in writing about, an alcoholic in the family, and how, especially at that time when there wasn't that much awareness of alcoholism as a disease, how alcoholism was seen in the family. It's
Mhm.
just like, oh, mom drinks a lot of Hawaiian punch.
Yeah, it's normalized in
It's
some way.
normal, and nobody says the word alcohol.
Mhm.
Um, so let's see. I always in Off Course, there's a frustrating young woman who is kind of a precursor to Jenny in Search, whom
Mhm.
everybody, loves to hate.
Mm.
And Sib isn't the love to hate type. Um, I know that a lot of mothers are a little defensive about her.
Mhm.
I tried to make it so that, I mean, she really tried to give her children experiences. She really valued experiences and took them to museums and movies and plays and opera, and even when they're too young to appreciate it, and she had a theory. What she didn't have was warmth. She didn't have connection with her children.
Mhm.
It's true.
Well, I know, found family is a big part of your books. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that theme, and have you gotten any feedback from people after they read the story about adoptions or any found family scenarios?
I have a friend of mine who's adopted said she got to the line and they left the hospital in different cars and burst into tears or
Mm.
in different vehicles. Um, she was actually in my kitchen when she saw the first picture of her birth mother ever.
Mhm. Wow.
Also, she reunited with her birth family, her half brothers. Her mother had already passed away. She didn't get to meet her. And it was happy. Everybody was ecstatic. Everybody was welcoming, and the family enlarged. And that really, you hear so much about people being unhappy they're adopted, or you see movies where they don't quite fit in with their birth family because they've been raised with such different values. But every now and then it kind of works, and families just get better and have more love in them.
Mhm.
Yeah. I liked how you made it realistic, where even though it was great, it's still such an overwhelming experience.
Can you
And that
imagine?
has to be so true in so many cases, where they almost need to step back and say, I'm not quite ready for all of this.
When I was doing research for that story, I talked to people. I talked to a nurse who used to um, do tests for kidney transplants where the family would come in to see whose kidney would be compatible. And
Mhm.
she said she had one family of 5 boys and not one of them had the same father.
Yeah.
They didn't know it. I mean, it happens so much more than we think, and that's one of the things that happened with 23andMe. And when I was researching the story, you know how JP goes online and
Mhm.
just all of those people venting their spleen and their anger at being, you know, lied to or not knowing who their father was or being surprised. And so
Yeah,
it's really a thing.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
think I agree.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you a question about Mrs. Wright.
Mhm.
The addition of her in this story is not something I saw coming. I thoroughly enjoyed her there, though. But why did you decide to include her at the end of the book in the narrative of the family?
Well, see, that's when I was still sort of fighting with the idea of a short story. She wasn't, there were stories that came before that I wrote after I wrote her, but um, when you're trying to do freestanding stories, after a while, you're so knotted up with backstory
Mm.
uh, that you'll notice, I think, in books of interconnected stories that they start going farther and farther afield the deeper you get into them. And that's because it's too repetitive to identify your cast of characters over and over again.
Mhm.
Um, and so she was as far afield as I went. She's in at least 2 or 3 stories. I think maybe 2 she's mentioned. Um, but it was somebody in a book club who pointed it out to me that it's the only story where Ellis's death isn't mentioned.
Oh, interesting.
And I wish someone had told me that sooner because
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been hard to weave it in and
Mhm.
to set the story a little bit more firmly in the novel.
Yeah. You're calling up your copy editor, being like, why didn't you catch that?
You missed it.
That's interesting.
Can you talk a little bit about the postscript with Freddie's letter? Why did you decide to include it and end the story that way?
Uh, I thought especially, I always knew that it was going to end that way for some reason. And that's actually a true story about my mom, who was a teacher.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And
I loved that part. I thought it was so great.
it's so amazing. I had published an essay in the New York Times,
Mhm.
and I got an email from this kid that she had when she was a new teacher, and he said that she used to tutor him at lunch, and she was, the first person to see that he had a math ability, an unusual math ability. And she also had what was then called an elective mute, but now I think it's called a selective mute in her classes. She was determined to get to talk. And she did that thing where she asked the math boy to befriend the mute boy. And he had said to me, still his best friend to this day. It's
Love that it's
unbelievable.
true. That makes it even better.
Isn't it great? Yeah.
That's so great. I also think it made well, Sib is so layered, and I love that way it made, even though she wasn't a great mom, she was a good teacher in that way. And there was one part that I thought was interesting. We discover that she is also having an affair, but you don't find that out in her story. You
Mhm.
find that out in Phil's story. I thought that was interesting. Why did you make that choice?
Well, frankly, I didn't know she had an affair until I got to that story.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes characters write themselves.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, there are these things that balance in the book. I didn't realize that, um, first there's one adopted baby and then there's another adopted child. I didn't, these things, we're patterning animals.
Wow.
Beings are. And a lot of the patterns that emerge when you're writing, it's kind of fascinating. Or some are conscious, but some are just there. They just happen.
Mhm.
It's really interesting. It's
That
one of
is.
the reasons to write, to
Mhm.
see what's there, what's coming out.
Well, I was watching an interview that you did, and they talked about you giving good recommendations for short story collections. And as a book buyer at Fable, I'm always trying to find the best books to put on our shelves. And I just wanted to ask you, what are some of your favorite short story collections? It sounds like that's something that you're very passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to replace some books. Let's see. I love Samantha Chang's Hunger.
Mm,
I love Carmen Machado's Her Body and Other Parts.
okay.
Student of mine, if you could call her that. She was a genius who sat in my classroom. Perhaps that's a better way of saying it.
Wow.
You
Um,
can have some credit, I'm sure, right?
well, we liked each other. She's a really terrific person. Um, Tony Tulatamuti's wild, wild rejection, not for the faint of heart, but brilliant. Of course, I love Alice Munro and Tom McGuane. I love Tom McGuane. I
Okay.
love Graham Swift, a British writer.
Hmm. Yes.
Um, Of course, I have the collected stories of John Cheever. When I was writing my first novel, every morning I would read John Cheever until I would think, okay, now I want to write.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, he's amazing.
Fanny Flagg has a new collection that I really enjoyed.
Oh,
Yeah, that just came out last month.
Yeah. We're always going to recommend a book here to our authors. Well, so what are you working on anything right now, Michelle?
ah, I'm working on so many things. I'm trying to figure out what I want to write next. There's a novel that I interrupted or that I didn't want to write after search. And
Okay.
I've got a chapter of that written. There's a young adult novel that um, is sort of based on one of the books that Dana wrote in Search, said she wrote, Our Best Year.
Mhm.
A young adult author. Uh, I sent her the book to read early on. Didn't really know her, but I wanted a really a cold eye on Search, and she got to page, I don't know, 4 or 5, where it mentioned that there was the Dana had an earlier book called Our Best Year about the year she took over cooking from her mother in her senior year of high school.
Hmm.
And the young adult author said, you have to write that young adult book. So I like a prompt, you know.
It sounds
That
like
would
it.
be interesting with your love of food, right? Because I know you started off as a food writer, is that correct?
I've always been a fiction writer, but you know, you have to make a living.
You do. This is true.
And so for years I worked in restaurants, and then a friend of mine from Iowa got a job as a restaurant critic. And I thought, hey, I want to do that too. So she put me in touch with Ruth Reichel.
Mm.
I guess I'd written some reviews for California Magazine, and then I had years. It's a perfect job for a fiction writer because it makes you get out of the house. It makes
Mhm.
you have friends, bring friends along. It feeds you. And
Yeah.
food is something that's really fun to write about because you can write about anything when you write about food. You can write about culture, you can write about people, you can write
Mhm.
about product, or it's a
Awesome.
great thing to write about.
I would
You know,
love to
Lori,
be undercover when at those situations.
you need to read Garlic and Sapphires.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I love Lori Colwin, all of her.
Oh,
I know
Mhm.
she was the best.
he was the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one last question I wanted to ask you, Michelle, was when you were talking about the fires in your house, what was the timing of this book and its completion in that? Had it been already sent to the publishers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We were, let's see, it came out in June. The fire was in January.
Okay.
Yeah, it was being copy edited, and I think it was pretty much done.
Yeah.
Don't know, well, we had marketing meetings afterwards and things like that. Yeah,
Wow. It's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, thank God.
Um,
They were wonderful, my editors.
I can't imagine. And just the possibility that this book could have not made it on the shelf and, in other timing is astonishing.
Yeah, I did lose all my notes for other things in my archive. That's why it's kind of hard to go back to that novel. I've had to
Yeah.
kind of reconstruct things.
Mhm.
Might have to make up a few things.
Makes sense.
Make up a few things in your fiction story.
Yes, I think that's allowed.
Yeah. Every now and then when I get too involved in research, I think just make it up.
There you go. That definitely. Well, thank you so much. It was so fun to hear your insights in the book and so many things I wondered and just giving context to the choices and all of the writing prompts that you gave yourself along the way. It's been so great. We are going to announce our next book club, which is in January, and in the chat, for anyone that wants to join us, I have put our next book club. I'm actually going to copy and paste that a little bit better, in January. And Elizabeth, why don't you talk a little bit about the book, which I know is one of your faves?
Yes, this is The Sunshine Man by Emma Stonex. And I fell in love with her writing with her last book, The Lamplighters. She writes this gorgeous literary mystery. And at this one, the beginning sentence is, the week I shot a man clean in the head began like any other week. And then it goes from there. And it's fantastic. It's a great plot. And you really get to know the characters' backstories. I loved it. Emma will be joining us from England. So we're going to actually, instead of doing this at night, we'll be doing this during the lunch hour Central Time. So 12 o'clock in January. What's the date of January? It feels like
January 27th.
Yes, the 27th. So the book came out today. It's such a great one, and hope that y'all can join us.
I can't wait. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Michelle. We're looking
you,
forward
Michelle.
to your next
you.
book and cheering you on.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
All
You're
right. Happy holidays.
Have a good night.
Thank you.